Welcome to the Hello FirstName podcast. The Hello FirstName podcast revolves around the term personalization and is brought to you by marketing author Rasmus Holy, founder of Omnichannel Institute and Chief Experience Officer at the marketing automation software company Agilic. The podcast is based on the book Hello FirstName. Each episode is based in turn on a chapter from the book, followed by a discussion of the very same chapter with an expert marketing practitioner in the following episode. As always, you can buy the book on Amazon or other bookstores. You can also choose to listen to it all for free on your favorite podcast service. You're also very welcome to download the abstract of the book for free, and all models, of course, are able to download. All downloads are sponsored by Agilic. I'll make sure to put a link to everything in the show notes, but you can always connect on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to reply and help out. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Hello FirstName podcast. Today we're going to discuss chapter 17 from the book Hello FirstName, which exists in these three versions. The chapter is called Conversion Rate Optimization and Personalization, which is a topic that I've been looking very much forward to discussing. And I'm so pleased to welcome no one else but the Queen of CRO, Marianne Stjernvall. As I understand it, you're the acting CDO at Tele2 in Sweden.
That is correct. Thank you for having me. At the moment, I actually just finished my interim position at Tele2 as a digital director. But they wanted to keep me on, so I'm still there, but as a digital business developer now, so consulting for them at the moment.
Yeah, but because I know you are also a very self-made businesswoman and a popular public speaker in your own consultancy on top. It must be busy weeks and have been and probably still is.
Yeah.
So you're also ex-co-op and the career within CRO, and you are, I think most people within that sphere would envy, for instance, all the speaking gigs that I see you doing now and then. And a Queen of CRO, maybe in your own words, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your career?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for those words. Very, very kind and humbling. I've worked with CRO since I think it's about 11 or 12 years now. Like when you come up for those like above 10 years, you're like, I don't need to count anymore, like 10 plus years.
I'm going for 20 fast, within a few years.
CRO hasn't been a while that long in Sweden, so I think it's fair enough. No, but when I started with CRO, it wasn't that many people in Sweden, so it's been really, really a fun journey being part of and taking part of that journey, making CRO a fantastic ways of working and methodology, and making both organizations but also people who want to work with the field grow within it. So I've been really seeing these past 10 plus years as just that. How can I get both organization moving forward and being more data driven in their decisions, because that is basically what CRO is.
Maybe actually explain that to the audience, because I'm not totally sure that everybody in the audience knows what conversion rate optimization is. Suppose we have a vague idea of it, but just for the sake of.
So CRO is the acronym and stands for conversion rate optimization. And basically what it was a long time ago was like, and most people know it as, we A/B test things. To A/B test what drives more conversions on your website. And, the fun, easy example is always, what's better, a green or an orange button? So you test the button coloring. And it's like a great example, because that's a perfect way to start when you're really a newbie, because you will always get some fun results out of it that are kind of easy to analyze. But I think that what CRO has grown into and what it means truly to me is that, because everything is so heavily influenced on what we do on the web. Our web interfaces and our digital experiences are so important for our entire user journey. So basically what CRO means to me at this moment, and what it's grown into, is how do we make smart data-driven decisions? Because data comes from our users, and the users, or our customers, that's who we want to create a relationship with. So that's our way of listening to our users, just as you do in other types of marketing with user or focus groups. When you get their feedback, those kind of feedback tools we have for the web as well. We have that qualitative data as well as aggregated quantitative data. And that aggregated quantitative data is something that you can't really get from anywhere else except digital environments.
True.
You can like have counters, how many people enters your stores and things, but then how they move around, what products they view, you can't really see that in a physical store. So we do have an advantage in the digital sphere, but I also believe that there's a growth that needs to happen there. And I also believe that people might be afraid to take decisions based on data because we have relied on gut feeling for so long. And it also kind of, I don't know if I should say this, but it kind of takes away the power for people.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So like if you're the one making all the decisions based on your experience, which is also like great, we shouldn't take away that experience. But to take decisions based on data, you might need another type of competence, and maybe that's you doing that work.
So maybe it's better funneling that experience into which experiments to run rather than trying to guesswork at the results.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, so for me, CRO is more about making data-driven decisions about which path to go and getting actual answers through like tools like A/B testing about what actually happened. And you can know that before you implement it. Like the first time I heard that, I was like, why would anyone want to take decisions in any other way if you can know the answer before?
Just to display power, or I don't know. How did you get into it in the first place? How did you start with CRO?
Actually, I was studying data and system science at the university, and we did a lot of testing. We did prototyping, we did user testing, we did a lot. So I read a lot about how to analyze different testing methods and about statistical power behind them. What type of variables are used that you can drive a behavior through variables. So how do you exclude them to actually make the result not influenced by anything else? And I thought that was really interesting, but I was more interested in like coding and building websites and things like that. But then when I heard of CRO, and that was actually through iProspect, the agency, they needed another CRO specialist. So when they kind of explained to me what that was like the perfect mixture of like analyzing user tests, but being data driven and coding. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do with my life.
Fantastic. What's your biggest achievement, like with a CRO experiment that you've done, or the CRO project?
I believe I do have one, but and also I don't know. It's one that is so specific because it was so early.
Good.
A Swedish organization called Comhem. They sold like TV subscriptions and broadband subscriptions. And well, they had their product page for TV and broadband kind of looked the same. It was, when you sell like a subscription for TV or broadband, the pages are usually very, very long.
True.
Which is fine because often you need a lot of information. You will subscribe for like 12 or 24 months. So you want that information. So people scroll a lot and read a lot, which was great. But the issue was that the intent for purchase, the add to cart and everything was still on the top of the page. And you had like no way of proceeding in the rest of the page. So I put the button add to cart sticky on top. And it was the greatest results of all times. One of these tests where you can actually see in the graphs that total sales went up from that point on.
I love it. So instead of the user having to scroll like infinite, so maybe getting the info that they needed tenfold, scrolling down, and then going all the way back up, you actually leave a button there where they are, no matter where they are.
So like always when you talk about these kind of tests that they are kind of obvious, like, of course, sticky button, we have sticky buttons or whatever. You find them obvious, but the truth is that all of these tests that people might find obvious, then why didn't you do them before? So it's like, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because backlog is too long and I'm just like a CRO specialist hacking my way into your code from a third-party tool. But anyways, it's like those huge values that you can get from such simple things, there's a reason to focus a bit on those as well.
Definitely, yeah.
So
And
yeah.
maybe it's also because it's more than a tool, and it's more than the experiment. It's also a way of working, right? I mean,
Mm,
now you have these people, and they're dedicated to doing optimization work. And when you then start to, I mean, maybe the website design was finished long ago, but during that there was so many micro decisions to be made that obviously, even though you've done your user-centered design and whatnot, you couldn't have possibly gotten them all right in the first go. And
yeah.
then project is over, website is done, launched, these people move on to something else.
Yeah.
So I mean, even though it may be obvious that there are optimization potentials, if no one is looking at it and has that focus, no optimization happens.
Exactly. I think that's what it is. And a lot of, so that was a while ago. A lot of what I'm seeing now when I work with different organizations are that there's a lack of focus. And I think that's what you're referring to as
Yeah,
well. Like
exactly.
there's a lack of focus within digital teams because there are always projects ongoing and
Yeah.
this is the next step and the next step. But what
Mm.
about those monthly kind of check-ins? How are our KPIs doing?
Yeah.
What in the business plan is actually making it clear to us that we should focus on these KPIs right
Mm.
now. When you have those KPIs, where's the focus and insights group taking that one step down to micro KPIs, saying, okay, has anything changed here? What can we
Mm.
influence? Where do we have possibilities?
Yeah.
That's the ongoing work that should
Yeah.
always, in my point of view, be like at least 20% of the time for a digital team to focus on that
Yeah.
everyday work, to optimize that, because there's so much potential
Yeah.
and value.
More
Growth.
process oriented than project oriented, or at least carving out space for that in the digital team.
Exactly. One organization I worked at had a really, really interesting setup for that. They had this like 70-20-10 model. So
Ah.
70% of all of the work that that team was doing was focusing on here and now, our
Yeah.
KPIs for this quarter and month, and so on, that line work. 20% of their time was focused on project and programs. So basically, okay, what's those next step we're
Mm.
executing on? And 10% was these like innovative, how do we get to that next step, strategical work, etc. And that was really great. And of
Mm.
course, like some people worked more on the 20% and some people more on the
Yeah. Yeah.
70%. But it was a good kind of benchmark that everyone could understand and rely on. And
Yeah.
they got really a lot of work done with the like optimizing their page. And you could see that in the numbers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it's so tangible.
Mm.
We'll get back to the tangibility and the attribution and the metrics later. But first of all, there's one thing that I envy, because I'm, when I first set out to do a Hello FirstName and do this book on personalization, I was kind of looking for a community of people working with personalization. And there, even though there are CRM communities definitely who are talking about customer centricity, yet you'd find other people who are also working with personalization, yet they are more working with product discovery and with for instance personalized product feeds and so on, or they are working with advertising even. So this joint tribe of people working with personalization, I don't see that. But I know, and from experience, that there's a huge community working with CRO, right?
Mhm.
How does that look like? How huge is that?
I mean, it's growing, I would say a lot, and has grown a lot for my period of time within the field. I would say the CRO community is very endearing. I think
Mm.
a good word. Uh, it is. It's basically a group of people, I would say, within the Nordics that I wouldn't say everyone knows everyone, but we're
Mm.
certainly aware
Yeah.
of each other. And I would also say every CRO person that I've ever worked with, I can truly say that I really, really like them. They're good people. It's like humble people who are
Yeah.
extremely nerdy,
Yeah.
want to create something better and
Mm.
data driven, always having a good time, because no one will work with CRO unless you love it,
Yeah.
because it's not that simple. It,
Yeah.
it takes a lot from you.
Mm.
So it really shows that everyone who's in the area, we really love it. So we are very eager also to share, because it is a field that is growing and need to grow more in
Yeah.
maturity. So I also noticed that everyone is really eager to show and share and learn
from each other's
better.
experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really
Yeah.
cool. I haven't really seen that anywhere else. And I
No.
actually talked to someone who's in like a bit both personalization and CRO, but also on the other hand in the field of AI. And they said that it's very interesting because they have meetings with like the CRO field and they have meetings with the AI field. And
Yeah.
they said that, like, Marianne, it's so interesting because when I have these meetings with people from the CRO field, it's always so fun and engaging and you share a lot. And then they meet the people from the AI field and it's like closed doors. Don't talk to me. Why do
We're
you
working on a secret project.
exactly
Not tell you, but we could tell you when we have to kill you.
exactly. No one enters here.
Yeah. You shall not pass.
Exactly.
Mm. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
yeah.
because I was looking with some degree of envy into that, and indeed, also I see that the term personalization also quite often pops up in CRO people's titles.
Right.
Which so the chapter is called CRO and Personalization, pretty much.
Okay, let's come to that now.
Following that, it's the third chapter in part 3 of the book, which is called the Prerequisites for Personalization. So, looking at personalization from a CRO standpoint and from within this community, what do you see as the attitude in the community towards personalization from within the CRO community, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And the first thing that comes to mind when you say that is like it's kind of a famous picture going around, so I'll try to explain it for you and everyone else.
Yeah.
So it's basically one picture with, I think it's 9 or 12 pictures within it. And it's like, okay, when a product owner asks you to build a rocking chair, like for hanging from a tree, and then it's like, this is how the developers see it.
I know the
This is
picture.
how the designers understood it. This is
Yeah.
how the project lead wanted it to be.
Yeah.
That's kind of the image I get when you ask me,
Yeah.
how do you CRO people view personalization?
Yeah. Are we gonna have a 3-legged chair, or what are we?
What
A
are we just
wheelchair?
so, well, laughs aside, it's actually quite true. And one of the things that I've talked a lot to organizations about, because I have been in organizations when they say, we need personalization on our web. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you? Do you know what you're saying?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you know what you mean? And I
Pandora's box, maybe. Yeah.
exactly. But we're also like, I think we're getting a bit more structured around it. But like
Mhm.
4 or 5 years ago, when this really truly came up from the beginning, and we heard like, we're going to personalize our web.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to. I'm not doing that because but when you kind of want to say like, what does that mean to you? But also having those dialogues when you kind of start up.
CRO shrink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What I'm hearing you saying is that, yeah, you should do
Um,
that more often.
so having those, but I think it's really, really good and mature to have those dialogues and
Mm.
conversations to say, what is personalization to you? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And especially when you work in the field of CRO, because look at it like you create an A/B test. You create an A/B test that you push out. We're making the button orange. We're just
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah.
for everyone. We're analyzing that. We're pushing the traffic 50-50 split. Perfect. But then, okay, you make an analysis. Maybe you see that, oh, wait a minute, it seems like our mobile users are very into the orange button and our desktop users are very into the green button.
Yeah.
Okay, then what do? We create maybe another A/B test only for mobile, where we make the button orange to say, does this work when we only do it for mobile users? And is that still CRO? Of course it is.
Yeah.
Is it a part of testing where you segment? You create a segment to be able to test this. So basically, you can call that segmented testing. Okay, great. You do that, you get a result. But then you dig into that analysis in your mobile segment and you see, well, it seems that people that come from paid search and SEM, they really like this a lot. Okay, cool. Maybe we do another test. We dive even deeper to that segment. So is that still segmented testing, or are we touching on personalization?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
The segment is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, and that comes to a point where the segment is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And the end goal of that for every digital experience would of course be kind of a one-to-one personalization where each visitor has a unique experience that fits their need to the point.
Yeah.
And that is a utopia that we can
I
speak
agree.
about,
Yeah.
but it's not really feasible.
At some
Because
point, the juice will not be worth the squeeze.
exactly. So there you have to find, I believe, your balance in from CRO and segmented testing, where that meets personalization. And
Yeah.
you also need the tooling to support a more one-to-one feature personalization.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
that's another cost on
Yeah.
top of it.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a journey that you do to find the balance and also the investment if
Yeah.
you want to put that on top.
So
I
it's
don't.
good to have more traffic, I suppose. The more traffic and volume and scale you have, the more the potential uplifts can pay for the tools and for the people and for the processes.
Absolutely. And I don't believe either that you have to take a decision and go 100% with that. You can work your way up from CRO to
Yeah.
segmented testing and
Yeah.
then try out a bit of personalization, but also dig into the analysis to see, do we have big enough kind of user groups within this to try it out? So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be everything or nothing. You have to
Yeah.
find your balance. And that's it.
It's quite often about the website though, right? So if I look at the CRO tribe or the community, it seems to be very focused on the website as the main vessel for doing the CRO.
Yeah. What else should we focus on? The apps, you mean, or lacking apps? What do you want?
Emails, push notifications, the user experience, the customer experience, the
Yeah.
customer journey, maybe.
No, I mean, for sure. CRO is more like used in the terms of web and like website, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Uh, but I would also say, as you as well, of course, argue in your book that like CRO is basically it's a way of optimizing all users and engagement with customers. And that includes the whole user journey. Is that when you kind of, because we had it within CRM for a long time, long before CRO came in.
Yeah.
When you do the split, you do have that 10% control group that you can kind of measure against. But that didn't exist online. So I think
Yeah.
CRO is just a term of taking that and doing it online.
Yeah. I see almost like two ends of the spectrum here, where there's like a gradual journey from CRO into personalization. I cannot say exactly when it becomes one or the other, but
Yeah.
in general terms, I say normally that CRO is about optimizing the general experience for the average customer, and personalization is about optimizing the specific experience for the known customer.
Mm-hmm.
And where on that spectrum you are with any given test or whatever that you're running, that's up to people themselves to figure out whether they're on board with one or the other.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that. But I could also argue that on the web, we have different opportunities. So when it comes to personalization and we talk about the known customer, then we can talk about the entire customer journey, tying that together, whether it's through CDPs to understand the 360 customer view or anything around that. But when it comes to web, I mean, that's the place who also have the opportunity to analyze people based solely on their behavior and personalize that journey and predict what's going to happen next. We actually really don't need to know who the user is in order to personalize their journey for them.
That's true. Yeah. So you can do. So I do the distinction between explicit and implicit personalization, and particularly for optimizing the customer experience for people that you don't know, and for the anonymous customers, then it's most likely something that's a bit more subtle. Obviously you can save the pages that people looked at, and you can display that in a certain feed, and no one will be creeped out about that. But I think if you're very very explicit about showing the recommendations that you're showing based on the click behavior, then that's also in the danger of becoming a bit creepy.
It could be, but it depends on how you do it and how you execute on it. So if you look at like, okay, these are the products that you viewed before and displayed them in that way, these
Yeah.
are your recently viewed products, then it's not
Yeah.
creepy.
Exactly, that's totally fine. So I think if I'm okay with the data being collected, and I don't think it's and I'm completely aware of it, and it's okay, then it's okay to use for explicit personalization as well. But
Yeah.
when should brands generally make the shift? Is there like a rule of thumb saying, okay, so now we optimize the general experience enough, now let's move into personalization?
Yeah. I mean, maybe not a general rule of thumb, but I mean, just ask yourself maybe the question to see like, okay, are we executing on CRO and being data driven? Like that's kind of a foundation. Do we know
Yeah.
our data sets, and do we
Yeah.
know about that? Because the data is the foundation of everything. If you don't have that, you can't even do CRO. So I mean, you can't do basically anything. You don't know anything. So that's the first thing. Then like, okay, can we begin doing some data driven decisions,
Yeah.
whether that is from CRO, from A/B testing in any way? Like, well, that's a very good way to do it, but it's just like, are we creating data-driven decisions? And then maybe asking your questions within A/B tests and the work of CRO we have done. Are we digging deeper into the results to understand different user segments, to understand if they have similar or different behaviors? If we haven't even gone through those steps, because analyzing one A/B test, you can get one result, but if you dig deeper into those different segmented parts which build up one A/B test, if you haven't done that, you haven't even like looked at the opportunity, if there is an opportunity for personalization.
Yeah.
That is free. If you have an
Yeah.
A/B test, go
Yeah.
into that and look at different segmented groups and see what comes out of it.
Yeah.
Do you have that so that you can say, oh my God, yeah, we have a segmented group here that lands on our offer pages that is from SEM traffic. Perfect. Okay, we are looking at that. It
So
seems,
start with some
yeah,
insights,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. So,
Which insights do we have, and which kind of decisions could we make on that? Whether it be optimizing something in general,
mhm.
which would be optimizing for the biggest segment, I suppose, first, or once you start optimizing also for other segments than
Yeah,
the biggest segment.
I mean, that's one part of it. And I think the other part, what we should also take into this conversation is what we call recommendations.
Yeah.
So, basically these kind of frames that you have under a product, like other people also bought, and
Product
these
recommendations. Yeah.
product
You might also like.
yeah. So that you can do. That's kind of an add-on to any platform you're sitting on. There are great, great companies that can do that quite cheap. You
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
need the full engine
Yeah.
to do product recommendations.
Yeah.
If that's what you need, buy a third-party tool that does only that and does it
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Add that on top, and you're basically done. It comes basically out of the box on Shopify. So I mean,
We
you
had that we had a whole episode on that, and there's a whole chapter on that, a full chapter on that in the book, actually.
exactly. So I mean, that's another part.
Yeah.
That is, of course, also within that product recommendation,
Yeah.
it's smartness and personalization.
Yeah.
But you
Exactly.
adding that on top, like that is not fully personalization if you do the product recommendations. That's not what we call personal. It's a part of it. It's
I
not.
agree. I agree. I couldn't agree more. Um, so I'm just getting the thought here that I was brought up within like professionally, obviously, within direct marketing and email marketing and so on, and so that's a bit of a different angle than the CRO angle, because even though people have been measuring on open and click rates since they started sending emails, the I have the feeling that the people who are coming from the direct marketing direction are more into personalizing because they believe it's the right thing, and not so much because they're necessarily measuring the actual conversions. They may be measuring the click rates and the whatever. So quite often I see, and sadly, I see that a lot of CRM managers or heads of CRM or people who are configuring, setting up marketing automation flows, they're setting up a pretty detailed welcome flow, for instance, for I don't know, a new sign up for Tele2 or whatever, and they'll be then doing different variants of that. They'll be personalizing different messages and offers and calls to actions, and not necessarily measuring the full thing up against a generic flow,
Right.
or comparing it to not sending a flow at all, because they're building these flows with the messages, and it's personalized and it goes out to different segments, but they don't necessarily do it to measure. They do it because they believe it's the right thing. And I think there's a big distinction between the sort of direct marketing tribe, if we call it that, and the CRO tribe, because the CRO people will always be like measuring before they even do anything.
Oh my God, when you say tribes, it feels like one is better than the other.
No.
It's like competition. I'm like, because
No.
that's kind of where I was thinking. Also, like, is one better than the other? And better would mean more accurate results and optimized.
I think everybody should be measuring on the money. I mean, if you're not counting the money, then suddenly some guy from IT will come and turn off your systems,
Yes,
because if you
absolutely.
cannot document it, then it's just a big expense. So if you cannot document the uplift, then you are a sitting duck, basically, and your systems will go out the door as soon as someone from IT or procurement comes by.
But also a question then to throw it like the question back a bit.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, as you say, born and brought up within direct marketing, so I'm not aware. But I also know that in direct marketing, you have established like for a long time that you have this maybe 10% control group and like done all of that.
Not
Maybe
everybody does it though.
no,
Yeah.
but isn't that just like asking the question, because that has been tested and ran for so long, so you kind of know where to go. You have some more knowns because you have more experience within the
Yeah.
field than you actually do in CRO, because a lot of the things, and especially when it comes to personalization, are new, not maybe general or standard.
Yeah.
So we're still in the exploration phase in CRO. We're still the
Yeah.
youngsters running around and trying out things.
So I think this is definitely something where the CRM people should learn from the CRO people. So sometimes I see the CRM people just building a welcome flow because, hey, we need to have a welcome flow. So not necessarily driven by any KPIs as such, but just because it will be a good thing to do to have the welcome flow. And then they actually forget about the control group, which is super dangerous.
Mm.
So I would love for any marketing automation project or any CRM project to be using control groups.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's okay after, obviously, once you then find out that, yes, guess what, the welcome flow performs 20% better in terms of churn reduction than not having a welcome flow, then obviously you'd want to have also the control group be part of that.
Sure.
But that's when it's important that when you kill a control group, then you save the report and you keep it in the drawer until the guy from IT comes by and wants to turn off the system. You say, oh, yeah. You realize you're throwing out this type of money, or you redo the experiments once in a while, or if you're continuously optimizing it, then you really save those results for later.
And I think that when you talk about saving, I think that is so important. And within CRO, we have been maturing in that a lot the latest like 2 or 3 years, where you kind of see, if you see an organization having a like skillful CRO department, they usually have a tool such as Airtable where they document everything, every single little A/B test, every single insight, like, and every A/B test might have like 20 different variables to that documentation to be able to cross-reference them with each other. It's really on, and maybe that is because also CRO is a quite nerdy bunch of people and
That's a tool, Airtable.
it's very cool.
Yeah, I'm going to take a note of that.
Yeah, you should look into it. I'm not an Airtable expert in setting it up, but I love the usage that you can get from it. Yeah,
that makes total sense. So I think this is definitely something that I feel the CRM people should and could be learning from the CRO people. Any other things that, I mean, when you're looking at CRM, for instance, what should CRM be doing more based on your knowledge?
I mean, maybe when you speak about it like that, because I have never worked that close to the CRM departments, because usually CRO sits in the digital or the IT department.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes in sales.
Yeah.
But I've never been that close with CRM. So maybe that is one thing that
getting closer.
Similar, and maybe we should get closer and speak the same language. Because together we have more of that full view of the customer and of the user. And one thing I see many companies doing, but we're not really there, is getting these, CDPs or the 360 view of the customer all together.
Yeah.
Kind of also deciding, okay, what type of data do we have where and how do we use it? So I see in some organizations, and Tele2 being one of them, where we have a fantastic like setup for the full user journey. So there's actually a group of people that are responsible for looking at that complete horizontal view of customer touch points and the customer journeys.
Like within a specific part of the customer life cycle then, or
No,
just the full
actually
journey?
the entire thing. And it's a smaller team, which I think is fantastic. But they are involved in everything, in all of the digital touch points, in the entire customer and user journey. And I think that is important because that group tells me things that they have been doing for one-to-one marketing, for example. And I can learn from that, and we can adapt to that. So I think, and it's also very, very hard, I think, in organizations today because we've been so siloed for so long. And now it feels like everyone is reaching for that, like cross teamwork and how do we work together better. And it's so hard to get that because it's so many people in an organization. Everyone can't talk to everyone. So finding those kind of focused learning groups, I think, is a
because I see we talked about the CRO people mainly being on site and working with the website, sometimes maybe the app experience, but mainly from an inbound perspective. So we have all this traffic coming. What do we do with it? Whereas the CRM people are quite often working outbound. So saying, oh, we have no one, we don't have any traffic. What do we do then? Then we start reaching out and see if we can engage or re-engage people. Or you have the advertising people who are also doing personalized advertising. At least that's what they call it. Some will claim that it isn't. But I mean, as soon as you're giving someone preferably better experience, for instance, by not showing them ads or whatever, that's also an act of personalization. So if you're not known, then in advertising, that's where the customer journey can quite often start. And there will be learnings from that. Then if you go to the platforms, the website and the app and whatever, that's where personalization could happen. That's part of the customer journey. And if you then want to reactivate people and get them back as cheap as possible without spending too much ad spend, that's where the CRM comes in. And really the customer journey encompasses everything. I would say, especially the web and the website experience and the CRM experience. Maybe those are the two departments that really need to talk together first, because interchangeably throughout a customer journey, the customer will be on and off site, reading emails, getting interrupted, being on the website, and then suddenly remembering it again and getting a push notification and whatnot. So really getting those things together. But maybe it's about getting sort of getting to a basic level with each channel before you start putting it together. Or do you start the other way around?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a third component in that, which is, of course, like the marketing, not the direct marketing, but more of the
advertising.
What's the last click advertising? But that is easier.
Performance
A lot of CRO teams are kind of born from that direct marketing or advertising marketing point of view. So I think that one comes more out of the box for a lot of CRO people. So we don't work as much on that relation as we do on the CRM one.
All right. So there's one question. I mean, we've been discussing a lot here, and it's an extremely interesting conversation, Marianne. So thank you for taking your time for this. So there's one question that I always ask, and we're coming towards an end here. So this is sort of the last question here. So I always ask people, what is your own favorite example of personalization that you've experienced as a customer?
Oh, okay. Well, it's a great question, and I think it's very, very hard because when you encounter great personalization, you don't give it an extra thought. You're not even aware of it. So I think the best examples are the ones we don't even know about because it actually succeeded. But I mean, one thing that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen until now, I mean, and I need to say it's a tool that I work with. So, I mean, I'm an advisor for them, so I have to say it, but it's truly one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and they're called Booby, Booby.ai. And what they do is that they have created, we talked a lot about segmentation, right? So we talked about getting from CRO, where you segment basically two groups, or maybe on desktop, to deeper segmentation. And it's that that is the part that's truly, truly hard. And also, if you are working with product recommendations, maybe you have a recommendation that should be seen by only desktop and only people who has bought from us before. And, creating that segment is the hard part. And that's what Bubby does.
Okay.
We are actually automating with AI and machine learning, creating segments that are used in the way that should this user see this, will they react positively and be motivated if they get to see this product recommendation or social messaging, whatever it might be? That doesn't matter. They are focused on the segmentation of the user and doing that based on motivation. It's one of the coolest things I ever seen. And I think we'll see a lot of more about that in the future.
Yeah. All right. So to sum up, so believe some of the best personalization is when it's basically removing friction and then people don't necessarily recognize it, but things just go smooth.
You said it so much better than me.
Yeah, but funny, and it's I kind of like it, but it also rubs me. I wouldn't say a bit in the wrong way.
We need to be invisible. We cannot be shown. We have to just operate in the dark, and if you don't notice us, that's our goal. Like, we don't want to be in the headlights.
I think that's a very on-site way of looking at things, maybe, because in direct marketing, you'd quite often be, if you believe it's okay, and if you have the, for example, so I say that when the customer journeys break, the customer journey breaks, that's when you need to find out whether we do something that is removing friction, and that can indeed be done by personalization. But you can also cross the line and doing something where you are explicitly telling the customer why you're showing them what you're showing them and how helpful it is, and using their data and using their parameters and talking about stuff that they know that you did with them, so it becomes more intimate and it's pretty clear that it's a personalized customer experience. And I think that goes maybe one level over just removing friction. That's where you actually, as a customer, preferably being a bit wowed by that and being like, okay, that was really for me. They really helped me, and they knew these things about me, and that was really helpful.
I completely agree. And there has to be a balance. Like, so some of the things that had happened to me, which was very cute, was there was a new brand that was delivering food to my place. I loved them. They're not around anymore, unfortunately.
You should love everybody who delivers food.
Yes. So, and the third time I ordered from them, I got a handwritten note saying like, "Oh, this is the third time you're ordering. Thank you so much." It was so sweet. I still remember it. I'm talking about it now,
Yeah.
So those things are fantastic. But on the other hand, you look at Spotify, right? They're never telling you what they do with your data. But would you ever log into your Spotify account and say, "Please don't track me anymore"?
No.
No. That's
My Spotify would be useless without my history.
Exactly, but they don't tell you what they do.
Yeah, that's very subtle, and that's also an inbound experience, because you come there, you have an intention, and they're trying to figure out what you want and putting that in front of you.
Yes.
Whereas when you're reactivating people, that's when you need to be more direct, I think, because people are suddenly not on Spotify anymore. Okay, how do we get them back? We talk to them explicitly about stuff that we know they like, and we make that clear. Or we can choose not to. But if we are, I've seen some studies with. So someone was, I think it was on Storytel actually. They were testing like a group of recommendations, and they were testing the headline of that group, and it was either popular right now, or it was because you X.
Right.
And because you X, which I refer to as the explicit way of personalizing, was performing 30-40% better in terms of clicks and so on. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was explicit. Whether it's something that it's also a pretty common thing to experience that. So whether it's something that will wow people, I think it's probably not. Maybe you're right. That will just, in this case, just remove friction and just, oh yeah, I like that. And you wouldn't think nothing of it. It wouldn't necessarily be a memorable experience, such as getting the handwritten notes.
Yeah, maybe not, but it's a very good example. And I just think it's very important to find that balance. And for the most part, if you work on web with CRO or with personalization, you should think about yourself as I'm creating heroes. I'm not the hero myself. I'm
Yeah.
creating opportunities for people
Yeah.
on the organization to be data driven and for our customers and users to have a great experience on digital services.
Let's that be the let's leave that as the final word of this episode. It was a huge pleasure discussing with you, Marianne. I don't know why we didn't do it earlier, actually, but it's been such a pleasure. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
And for the listeners, I will just say that thank you for listening in on this episode of the Hello FirstName podcast. Please share with your friends so we can get even more listeners and viewers. Currently, we have listeners from more than 25 countries, so it's already building up quite nicely. And do connect with me if you like to know more about this. And the book is available on Amazon, and you can download the models, and I'll put a link to everything in the show notes. So thank you again, and stay tuned until next time. Thank you for listening in on this episode of Hello FirstName. Remember that all models and even a written abstract of the book are available for download. You'll find the link in the show notes.
In our next episode, which is a classical audiobook chapter, we'll be listening to Chapter 18, Models of Organizational Maturity in Personalization. How do you build an organization that can work systematically and sustainably with personalization? And what does the Hack, Pack and Stack acronym mean? Which maturity perspectives exist on this?